Hi, everyone in person. Thanks for coming. As usual, we'll take a couple moments just to find a nice, supportive, simple shape to settle into. So if you want to start on your back or you're more comfortable in a seated shape, you can definitely find either place. You could sit on the floor. You could sit in a chair if you're at home or in your office. You could lie back on the earth, let your knees bend. And we'll just start by settling into the moment. It's taking some time, noticing how you're feeling, noticing your physical body, noticing your energetic body. Noticing how it feels to take a few moments to really settle, slow down, find some space, pause and breathe. And reminding ourselves that we have agency and choice over our practices. So if something doesn't feel comfortable, safe, or supported, please remind yourself you don't have to do it. You can back out. Self-care is so important. Taking care of ourselves is priority. Practicing self-compassion will take 3 breaths. As we settle into this moment with our breathing, before we get started moving, how about we take a couple moments to bring a couple things to mind that we're really extra grateful for. So practicing gratitude for a few breaths. As you bring those things to mind, just letting those things really have a moment to process and settle into your breath, into your feeling tone, into your body. You might start to feel gratitude. And feeling this sense of gratitude in relationship to your breathing. And taking 2 more breaths. And then switching gears a little bit. So you can stay sitting up if you're sitting up, or if you want to roll onto your back, you can roll onto your back. Just going to take a moment to feel the earth, to feel the ground, and knowing that the ground is right there to help hold you up. It is stable, it is strong, and it's not going to move through the practice. Okay, so you can come back over and over to how you feel and how you define grounding. And with that, feeling your breath in relationship to being grounded. So we can do really hard things. We can balance. The breath might get a little bit heavy. The breath might get fast. And we can keep this undertone feeling of stability, strength, and grounding. Okay, so we're going to come back to this a few times. And we're going to try and soften. So if you're sitting or lying back too, softening a little bit through the roof of your mouth. through your neck, through your shoulders and chest, and down into your rib cage. And on Tuesday, we talked quite a bit about engaged breathing through your abdominals. So we're going to come back to that for just a little bit here, maybe a minute and a half to remind us. And if you weren't here on Tuesday, this will be brand new. So we'll walk ourselves through it. So right now, let your abdominals really just rest. And you'll feel more of that big kind of fluid breathing in the belly. And so this nice fluid belly breath is very down regulating. It's very helpful to bring us down into a state of more calm and ease. And it can be useful right now. The earth is holding you. So we don't need to use your abdominal muscles in a way of support. The abdominal muscles can really relax here. Then we're going to slowly over the next few, maybe 5 to 8 breaths, change that. We're going to start to engage your abdominals, and that's going to start with your exhale. So as you start to exhale, seeing in your own way of understanding and feeling, your abdominals contract. They shorten. Might feel like a deep hug. Concentric contraction when you exhale, shortening. When you inhale, your abdominals lengthen, eccentric contraction. Can we find a balance of tone in both breaths? So as you exhale and you inhale, you can feel the breath, you can feel the tone, maybe even feel some movement, but from a place of tone and strength and connection. You need to find this strength for abdominal stability to really help us in the next few exercises, postures we're going to do. So 2 more breaths with abdominal control, engagement, support, and then let it rest. Go back to that belly breath so you can feel the difference. So we don't necessarily want to walk around and spend our whole lives in deep abdominal control. Need to be able to go back and forth. All right. So we're going to roll onto our backs and do a series of dead bugs. We've been doing dead bugs together for a really long time. So if this is your very first time in this class, welcome to dead bug. If you've been doing dead bug with us for a couple years now, you can pretend it's your very first dead bug. All right. So we come onto the back into that constructive rest pose. And then give yourself, a couple of breaths to feel the ground, but then to also come back to that engaged breathing. So let's take 3 breaths to come back to engaged breathing. Engaged breathing, we also talk about the ribs drawing down and in, maybe feeling the navel draw down towards the floor. So you keep a sense of that tone in your inhale. Then with your next exhale, arms come up towards the ceiling. Knees come up over the hips. And we bend at the elbows. So your hands will be facing back, mat, or towards your head. Your feet, heels will be facing front of the mat. Neutral spine, engaged breathing. Your choice. You can take all 4 limbs up to the ceiling at the same time. You can work contralaterally left leg, right arm. You decide your challenge, and we'll go for about 20 seconds. Inhale up, exhale bend. And coast back to stillness. Engaged breathing reminder, grounding. Take all the limbs up towards the ceiling. Bend all the limbs. One more time, all the limbs come up. All the limbs bend. Left arm, hand is going to come over on your right thigh bone. Okay, and you're going to press your thigh bone away and pull your thigh bone in at the same time. So it's a little push-pull here to help create some extra connection to stabilizing. Right arm, left leg come up to the ceiling. Now you decide how far you want to take your right arm back overhead and how far you want to lower your left leg. Stable, strong, and sweep it all back up towards the ceiling. The farther or further you go, the lower you go, you'll notice the more stabilization you need. Don't hold your breath. We'll try about 2 more. You don't have to go very low. Maybe you're only moving an inch or 2. Maybe you're bringing those limbs quite close to the floor. Try not to let the ribs pop up. Last one. And then back to your good old dead bug. All the limbs up towards the ceiling. All the limbs down. Sorry, all the limbs up. When I say down, I really mean bent. Right arm comes over to the left leg. Left arm, right leg up towards the ceiling. Engaged breathing. Stable abdominals, ribs drawing down and in. Test it out. Arm swings overhead. Leg pushes out to lower down. Exhale, come up. Everybody finds their own challenge. Three more. Gentle reminder, less can be more. So if you're really stretching out and you're feeling really tight, you're kind of gasping for breath, maybe that's a nice place to back off a little bit, find something a little less challenging. And then we come back, all the limbs back up towards the ceiling. And now for real, lower everything down to the floor. Let the belly relax. Let everything that can relax, relax for 3 breaths. Bringing your hands behind your head, elbows wide. Exhale, lower belly contracts. We lift the shoulders, look into the belly, little sit up. Inhale, long spine, lower down. Exhale, abdominals contract, lift, little sit up. Inhale, eccentric contraction, abdominals stay long and strong as you lower your shoulders and head. 2 more. Stabilizing the low back to move through the thoracic mid, back, and the neck, cervical spine. Last one. And then let everything rest for 3 breaths. Come back, belly breathing. Letting go of that engaged tone. You can just let things rest. And then with your next couple of breaths, we have to get all the way on up to standing. So however you want to make that happen for you, we'll meet up towards the top of your mat in a nice standing mountain shape. So we'll just, if you're in the room and you want to look out at the lake, you could turn your mat to look out at the lake, letting your arms hang. Just coming back to your experience, what you're noticing, what you're feeling. Returning to a place of grounding. You can feel the earth. There it is, strong and stable. It's not going anywhere. Feeling your breath. And then coming back to that engaged tone, active breath. 2 breaths to remind us to engage actively, strongly through the abdominals. And then when you're ready with your next exhale, we're going to sweep your arms out to come up. Maybe feel for a moment the shoulder blades slide up. And then bring the arms back and down. See if you can feel what you can't see, the shoulder blades slide down and in. One more time. Taking the arms wide and up, shoulder blades. Slide out and up. We're going to bend the knees a little bit and fold nice and long all the way over. Hands could rest on the thigh bones, the shins, or the knees, or even to the floor. Let your head hang. Bend your knees and check in that this isn't too much for your low back and not too much for your hamstrings. With an exhale, gently lift your chest and look out and pause. Remember to find that strong, engaged abdominal area to support the low back spine and push your hip creases back. So define and feel your hip creases. And then we fold and step all the way back to downward facing dog. So you decide here if you need to come down to table. If you're at home and need to use a chair, a table, or a wall for your down dog, you can pedal out your feet. We'll take 3 breaths. If you want more challenge, come to tabletop or straight arm plank. So you can come all the way forward to a straight arm plank, or you can come to tabletop, which might not feel like more challenge yet, but we're going to all take a moment to engage and feel that inhale and exhale engaged breath. And then if you're in tabletop, shoulders draw down out of your ears, same with plank, and float your knees up. So you could take a floating table. Engaged low abdominal breathing, downward facing dog. Take a nice full inhale. With your exhale, step your feet up to your hands. Take an inhale to feel that breath. And then exhale, slowly come all the way on up. Inhale, arms to your side. Little bit quicker this time. Exhale, arms sweep out to come up. Bend your knees, fold forward. Strong tone through your abdominals. Lift your chest. With your next exhale, step back, downward facing dog. You pick, maybe down dog, tabletop, floating table, or straight arm plank. 3 engaged abdominal breaths. So can you feel that engagement even with your inhale, even with your exhale? Back to downward facing dog or tabletop for 3 breaths. So if you'd like to work a little bit more on shoulder strength here, you can slowly start to bring your shoulders forward, 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 a little more over your wrists. You're going to feel that wrist hand connection as the shoulders come forward. If this is too much for your wrists, push your hips way back again, okay? So we'll do it one more time. You can lift your heels way up, and you can start to bring your shoulders forward over your wrists, and then walk your feet forward towards your hands. Exhale, we come all the way back on up to standing. Bring your arms down, 2 engaged breaths, standing mountain meditation. Okay, stepping your feet wide. Left leg. So let's define your left leg from your left pelvic crest. So try not to move your pelvic crest a whole lot. We're going to lift your left heel and roll the leg in. Try and stabilize the hip a little more. So we're not swinging the hip. We're not doing this big hip swing. We're trying to just get a little more internal leg rotation in the socket, which will give that piriformis muscle a little stretch, and then we'll roll the right leg out. Hands can come to your hips. Reestablish your grounding in that engaged breathing and bending your right knee. Great, straightening your right knee. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Last one. Next time your right knee has some bend, pause. Great, 3 breaths. Engage strong lower abdominal breathing. Straightening the right leg. Rotating your legs, feet, toes to face a little more forward. Second side, right heel lifts. Try not to move your right hip a lot. So define where your right hip bone is there. Front right hip bone, pelvic crest, and try and keep it pretty stable as you just roll the right leg in. And then the left leg rolls out. Then maybe the pelvis moves around a little bit. Let your left knee bend. And straighten. Sweet, 2 more. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. 3 breaths. Engaged lower abdominal breathing. Fabulous, bending or straightening the left leg. Both legs can come back. Great, so feeling your pelvic bowl, that might have been a little confusing for some of us. So here's your pelvic bowl. So another way to say this is engaged breathing. So we're going to find lots of tone through our abdominals. Stabilize your pelvis, okay? Lift your left heel. So when you stabilize, try not to move your pelvis. See if you can just roll your left leg in without a ton of movement in the pelvic bowl. And you're going to put that left heel down. And then you're going to roll your right leg out. So you're going to those warrior 2 legs. Then take an exhale, really feel the earth. Inhale, lift your bowl up. Okay, so you can exhale, feel the ground. Oh, anchor. Inhale, lift the bowl. Sweet. And then from here, we're going to take your hip creases and tip over. So the legs are a little straighter, going towards more of a triangle pose. And then we're going to tip and come back up. All right, so when you come up, notice where your pelvis is. So let's define your pelvis. And maybe bring your pelvis around to the right a little bit. See how your pelvis can move independently from your legs. So your legs are set here. You're going to move your pelvis around. Little more at an angle to the right. And then you're going to tip in that right hip crease and either bring your hand to your thigh bone or maybe down to your shin. You got to use your core here. Good. And then your rib cage spins open or spins around. And then maybe if it works for your shoulder, your left arm comes up. If this is too much for your left shoulder, just bring your hand to your hip. And then notice what you feel. Notice your response for 3 breaths. Let your exhale re-engage your awareness to engaged abdominal breathing. And then inhale, come all the way on up. Both legs steer forward, find your pelvis. So trying to not move your pelvis, lift your right heel. Feel your right thigh bone roll in more than your pelvis, more than the right pelvic crest. Is that possible? And the left leg rolls out. Okay, now your legs don't move a whole lot and you're going to move your pelvis around. Legs are pretty steady. And then we tip. So you're going to pull your pelvis around a little more to the left at an angle. Long spine, tip over. No need to overdo it in your hamstrings. So you pay close attention for the feedback and then you spin your chest. Fine, build your triangle pose. 3 breaths. Let your exhale encourage engaged breathing and then keep the engaged breathing nice and strong, stable as you come all the way on up. Hands back to your hips, legs steer back in. Making sense? Legs, left leg rolls in, right leg rolls out, pelvis rotates, bending your right knee, tipping over. Now the right knee is bent instead of straight. Maybe your hand or your elbow comes down. Spin the rib cage. Left arm comes up. 3 breaths. Exhale, engaged breathing. Inhale, engaged breathing. Come up. Stabilize. Both legs face in. Pelvis. Move the thigh bone. Right? So when you can stabilize the pelvis more and just move the thigh bone, you're going to get some stretch and work these deeper internal hip muscles a little bit differently. Okay? So see if you can move more from the leg, less from the hips as you roll your right leg in and your left leg out. Then the legs stay stable and we take the pelvis around and bend the left knee. Check you don't feel any jamming in your low back. Lift the pelvis, tip at the hip, hand or elbow to the thigh. Right arm can reach up as the rib cage spins up towards the ceiling. 3 breaths. Can you feel a connection into those abdominals with your engaged breath? Exhale, engaged inhale, come all the way on up. Both legs roll in. One more time. Stabilize the pelvis, move the left thigh bone. Stabilize the pelvis, move the right thigh bone. Back to that warrior 2 stride. Ground. Inhale, lift the pelvis. Bend the right knee. Now move the pelvis around a little bit to the right and tip over. Maybe you liked having your elbow on your knee. Maybe you want to take the right arm down. So you can explore maybe going a little lower into that hip crease as you tip. 3 breaths. Maybe add the challenge if you were out there on the lake on ice skates and you didn't want to fall, what would you do? Strong, stable breathing. We're going to come up and hold it into a warrior 2. Look and get your knee a little more over your middle toe. And then reach your arms up, straighten the legs. Come back to the front. Awesome. Stabilize. So your right thigh bone rolls in. Oh, my right hip really wants to go. Left thigh bone rolls out. Now take the pelvis around, bend the left knee. You got it. Tip over. Decide, elbow, hand, maybe the arm comes down, spin the chest. Take a few breaths, engaged breathing. I always feel the longer you stay, the more you learn about yourself, right? So should we come out of this? Do we all know enough about ourselves? Warrior 2. And then straightening, lifting. Good, rotating. And now it's a big, long forward fold. So try not to fall forward. Reach, reach, reach. Now, as you fold over and you start to let your head hang, remember, try to keep engaged breathing. So even here, can you keep some tone and strength in your lower abdominals for 2 breaths? Next exhale, we're going to yoga crawl. So that means you walk your hands around to the front, the feet to the back, and find downward facing dog. You want the shoulder work, bring your shoulders over your wrists or skip it. Next exhale, legs walk up to your hands. Ground down, come all the way on up, strong standing mountain. Arms come down, 2 breaths. And coming back to your experience. So you can look out at the lake if you're in the room, or you can face me. We're going to ground through the left side. Come back and find and feel that engaged breathing and pick up your right heel. This might be enough balance for you, okay? Try to keep your left knee supple, your left hip supple, shoulder kind of supple, okay? Keep breathing. So if this is enough, you're going to stay here. If you want more challenge, you can rotate this right thigh bone. You could start to lift the leg, but not the hip. So we did all of those previous warm-up yoga poses so we can define our pelvis from our thigh bones. Try to keep the pelvis set and just move the thigh bone as you find your tree. So your hips are still pretty level. You push your legs together wherever you are. Tone, breathe, soften face, soften your jaw. If you're feeling a little anxious, hum your exhale. So we'll take 3 breaths. Feel free to hum. Okay, so we're going to turn this into a high lunge. So we're going to swing that right leg around if you were in tree. If you're down here, we're just going to take that right knee and step it straight back. Build a high lunge. If you want more challenge, your arms come up. Give yourself 3 breaths, tone engaged breathing. Right thigh bone presses back. Hips face pretty much forward. Exhale, shift the weight slowly forward and bring your right knee back on up. Maybe bring your arms up. This is too much. Recognize this is too much for me right now and put your foot down. It's okay. Self-care. Take care of yourself. Engaged breathing. And bring both feet down. Kind of march it out. Shake it out. Let everything rest. Then come back to that easy-ish stance. Right? So sometimes balance brings up, right, some fear. Maybe it brings up some anxiety. I get a little anxious. My breath changes. I want to hold my breath. So can you stay grounded? Come back to that feeling. There's the ground. It's got you. You're in control. Left heel lifts. Look around. You're in a safe place. You got this. Right? You can keep your knee out. You could rotate the leg. Keep your hips a little more squarish. Find where you want to put that leg. Anywhere on that right leg works. You're going to push your legs together with lots of strength. Right? Wobbling is kind of encouraged because we're, living, breathing, real life creatures. Sweet. And then if it's too easy, close your eyes. You can hum. You can swing that leg back around. And then we step way back into a high lunge. Maybe your arms come up, maybe your hands come to your hips, right? We're all really different. Take a couple of breaths. Engage tone, strength, stabilization. And we have to step things forward and balance. And then put the left leg down. Right leg's gonna lift back up. Right leg's gonna cross over the left. You can start by putting your pinky toe. They're not pinky toes, they're tiptoes. Put your tiptoes on the floor. Swing your arms out up and wide. So your right arm is going to go underneath your left. We're going to find a version of eagle pose. So you might be bringing your palms together, the back of your hands. You might be crossing. You might settle down a little bit, like sit down more like a chair pose. These are all mights because they're all different progressions. Hopefully we can all just be really quiet, listen to 3 breaths. Tone engaged breathing. And we undo and put everything back down. Right away, go over to the other side, cross your left toes over, tiptoes. Sweep the arms. Soft edges even when it's hard, okay? So what's that saying? It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Right? How are you going to do this one? Soft edges, be kind, gentle to yourself. Check in with your breathing. 2 breaths. Then you can let it all go. Sweep the arms up. Exhale when you're ready, fold forward. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, step back, downward facing dog. You can stay here. You could come to plank. Lower down to your knees. Pull your chest forward and up, upward facing dog. And then with an exhale back, downward facing dog. 3 breaths. And then with your next exhale, lower to your knees. And come all the way onto your backs. So I had a question come in regarding bridge pose. So I'm going to do a couple demos. You can listen if you're an auditory learner. If you're visual and you really want to watch, you can stay sitting up. We're just going to go over what low bridge is versus like a high bridge. Okay. So you could also come down, and then of course, if you're confused, you're like, oh, I'm going to sit up and watch. Okay. So some of us are kinesthetic and we need to move as we learn. So when you come and start in bridge, we start back here in this constructive rest pose. And your arms can be down by your side. Your palms can be down, okay? So there's many ways to teach bridge. I usually start with a pelvic tilt so that people can start to feel the strength. So as you press your navel down, your abdominals engage, and then you roll up. So when you press that belly down, exhale, contract, and then you can roll up into, this is what I call a low bridge, where your pelvis is not very high up off the floor. It's like maybe mine's like 4 inches. So this is how I define low bridge. Oftentimes I come here to line up belly with pubic bone. And then the idea of pressing forward and out. High bridge, we start to take the pubic bone up higher towards the ceiling, getting more pelvic extension. And when we get more pelvic extension, we need more of that engaged, stabilized breath to support the low back. We don't want a lot of unnecessary hinging back here in the low back. So if you're pressing your pubic bone up higher, 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 more engagement in your abdominals. And then we'll roll all the way down and take a breath. Now, sometimes bridge is taught by bringing your arms underneath and interlacing. So this causes your shoulder blades to retract and your chest opens up a little more. You'll feel more space across your pecs. So we'll do one more bridge. You choose. Start from the rolling up though. So feel the pubic bone, feel the navel, press the navel down, roll up, vertebra by vertebra. Low bridge. If you're in low bridge and you want to try and interlace your hands and sweep your elbows a little more under your hips, go for it. And then you press into your feet and press your pubic bone up, up, up for high bridge. And you really connect into stabilizing, engaged breathing. 3 breaths. And then we roll all the way down. And we just hang out on our backs for a couple breaths. Let everything rest that can rest. Let your belly totally relax. And checking back in with how you're feeling energetically and physically. Looking ahead to what's going on the rest of the day, maybe into the weekend. We'll take the last couple minutes here for self-care. So planning ahead for the day, maybe you want to rest. Maybe you want to meditate. Checking in with your physical body. Maybe there's somewhere you want to give a little extra breath or stretch to. We'll take the next few moments in silence. And just relaxing into the ground, knowing the ground's there to support you. Bringing your awareness back to gratitude. Maybe there was someone today that really helped you out. I was riding my bike today here and I forgot my mask and I texted Misty and she had an extra and it was the best thing ever because I got to keep riding my bike. Maybe there's someone like that who's helped you get here today or helped make your day better. Let's give that person a couple breaths. And then take a nice full exhale, let everything go and start to draw your knees into your chest. Rock a little bit side to side. And then we'll slowly roll all the way on up to sitting. Woohoo! Thanks everyone, it's Friday. Yes. Thanks everybody online. Thanks everybody in person. Have a fabulous weekend. See you Tuesday.